Today we have Dwayne Carey, president of Impact Marketing, joining us for a conversation. We're going to talk about all things marketing. Dwayne, thanks for joining.
You bet, Chris. Thanks for having me. Good to see you.
Marketing's a pretty broad term. What exactly do you really focus on at Impact?
It very much is a broad term, and people think it encompasses everything, and it does, but we're all about digital. And that's come over the years. We were, 20 years ago when we started, we were much more full service, but digital is measurable. And I know this is one of the many things that we have such a great tie-in with Goose. If you can measure it, then by God, you can make good choices. And that's the whole deal with digital. And really it comes down to Google and, Meta, Facebook, Instagram, all the social media stuff. But it's really just about the lead generation component of marketing. We're not a branding shop. We don't employ graphic designers, for example, never have, although we do a lot of that work, but we just use a contractor here or there when we need it because we really don't need that for what we do. We're specialists in Google.
Gotcha. So lead marketing, funneling people to businesses' websites, I imagine, or other, I guess, areas where they're listed online, perhaps. And I think I read while doing a little bit of research on your website about how it's so important to have that landing page prepared before you start putting people into that funnel.
That's right. Yeah, often. So we do website development work at Impact, but to be very blunt and frank, and we tell clients this all the time, we don't love to do it. What we love to do is generate leads. Let's create a constant flow of new business coming to the client. When someone comes along and their website is not okay, maybe it looks pretty, but it doesn't work well, or much more often, it doesn't really look very good either. In that case, we'll say, look, we're either going to have to redo this site or do it in a better platform. That's something we can talk about too, is we've seen all these AI-driven web development platforms cropping up now because they're easy and cheap for marketing agencies to use, but they're not good. They're very problematic because you can't customize them with some of the more sophisticated widgets and detail creating tools that we need. So we'll tell people, look, if your website's not quite ready, we don't want to start driving leads, because if we're going to drive leads to something that either isn't going to work well, or B, we can't measure because it's just kind of jacked up where it's on some obscure system that was done because it was cheap, then we're going to say, let's slow our roll here and let's do this right.
Obviously, first part is to have a foundation in place that you're going to send people to. You said you don't really enjoy doing that or don't like doing it. Is it in your wheelhouse? So you'll help somebody get
totally,
there?
100%. We probably do 50 websites a year. We do a lot of website development, and it's not so much that we don't enjoy it. It's that there's a billion people out there that can build a website, and we're happy to do it. But if we can ensure that a client is going to get a really good product and have somebody else do it, we're like, cool. No problem. We're not out here trying to build websites. I gave you that caveat because whenever we tell somebody, hey, you need a new website, it's never because we're in the business of building websites. We'll do them, but we don't make money on them. We try to price them as minimally as possible so that we just cover our costs and all of the time involved. But the website is the tool. It's not the end point. It's a means to an end.
Yeah. And for you guys, it's just a prerequisite to be able to then do your bread and butter.
It's a checkbox. So when we get most of our business is by referral. And when we get a referral, one of the first things we do is look at their site. And if it's a good WordPress site, we smile, we sigh we give a sigh of relief, and we're like, okay, let's get to work on this other stuff. And if it's a jacked up site, or if it's a Wix site, a lot of people use that. It's just like there's just so many things that they're not quite ideal for lead generation. And then we're like, ugh. And then if we'll find out that the client just did this new site 6 months ago, then you're like, oh no, because Now I got to tell them their baby's ugly and it's going to cost them more money, you know?
I've been in this industry long enough to where websites have dramatically improved over the years. I mean, oh my goodness, this used to be the worst industry for websites in general. I would go to some and just shake my head. I would say in general, they're very much improved from what they were a decade ago. Tell me this, how did you get into the pet industry specifically? Because I know you have about 3 verticals are of focus, but pet being a main focus too.
Pet by far the main focus. Pure happenstance. We got a referral. So we've been in business since 2005, and I think it's maybe 2016. There was a referral to a client here in Maryland, where we are, referred by their IT company, and they had an existing digital marketing company, and they said, we just don't feel like we think we could be doing better. The guy couldn't really wrap his arms around that and really define it. It was just more of a gut feeling. And he was a very sophisticated businessman. I'm saying it in the past tense because they've since sold to Destination Pet for a huge multiple. Long story short, we doubled their leads and doubled their size of their business. And they had been in business for like 15 years. That caught the eye of their consultant, who then referred us to another one of their clients out in Colorado. And literally the exact same thing happened. Doubled their leads, doubled their business. And they sold for a huge multiple to Destination Pet. So that was, the first couple were in 2016, and then they just started piling on and referring each other. And now I think it's like 107, 110, something like that, facilities around the country that we do lead generation for, and they're everything you can imagine. It's the single location mom and pop in rural southern Illinois to multi-location, very sophisticated facilities in big metro areas like Atlanta and Chicago and Houston and LA. It's all of the above.
I bet it takes many different strategies depending on the region of kind of how you approach those businesses. But where does like SEO come into play into the equation?
It's very important, and it's really interesting now because there's been a lot of carping about SEO is dead because AI is here. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Because of AI, SEO matters a lot more now. We have developed over the years I don't want to call it a bias because that sounds like a negative term, but in the positive way, we've developed a bias that SEO, search engine optimization, definitely, without question, the data tell us this, takes a back seat to paid Google ads. Without question. The volume of lead generation available through organic means, it's just nowhere near what it is for ads because Google games the system. I mean, they control the means of production here, right? They've got the ads at the top of the search results page, then the map, and then the organic stuff is down below. You've got to scroll down, right? And so because of that, our approach with most clients, probably 80-90% of our clients, is to let's get started first with generating leads. Let's get some business coming in the door, and then let's look 6-12 months down the road. If we still need a little bit more business coming in, then let's worry about optimizing for organic. Now we're slightly adjusting that because of AI. And I just got off, I was sitting in on a meeting with one of our long-term clients. They get hundreds of leads per month. They had one, again, we track everything. They had one new lead come through ChatGPT. So it's happening. It's just happening way slower than people think it is. But SEO is definitely a good part of lead generation. It still exists, but everybody needs to understand that Google doesn't make any money if you rank well organically. They make money, and hence their $1 trillion plus valuation is driven only because of selling ads. So you've got to play the game.
We can clearly see where the incentive is, right, from their standpoint.
That's exactly right.
You brought it up, AI. Obviously, it's kind of taken over the world. I mean, it's just infiltrating every aspect of our life. And so that one example you just gave of the lead coming from ChatGPT, is that from somebody typing in or talking into ChatGPT and saying, hey, show me the best pet care facilities in my area, and they're clicking a link right in that ChatGPT console?
That's exactly what that was. That example was in Morristown, New Jersey. But we see it all over the place. And the clients that have a strong brand, and that's an interesting point, because I have always, I'm a finance guy. I have an MBA in finance. I'm a science undergrad. I came to marketing from the numbers side of things, not from the touchy-feely, let's make pretty pictures side of things. And I have always poo-pooed branding, and I think rightfully so. But now the onset of AI is making brand a little more important, because if there are 10 daycares in a given city, the one that's been around longest, and it does look at that, the one that has the most reviews on Google and a high rating, the one that has a brand that exists out in multiple places on the internet, whether anyone ever interacts with them or not. But just the fact that they're out there, they rank better in the various AI tools, Perplexity and Claude and ChatGPT, and then the scores of others that are out there. If you are investing in really it's a time sink more than a money thing. But if you're on Reddit, let's say on the subreddit for doggy daycare, and you're participating as an owner and answering people's questions, that kind of stuff is coming in to feed the AI models.
There's a very comprehensive approach I think you need to have, right? And to be present in all those different channels.
That's right. We tell clients all the time, for example, we tell them you should never hire a marketing company to do your organic social media. I think pet is 80-90% of our whole business. So we're heavily specialists in pet. But there are some other industries, like we have a good business with home improvement contractors. For people like that, they might need an outside company to run their social media. But dog daycares, you have the most incredible built-in everyday fodder for posts. You have amazingly cute dogs and great people that love to play with dogs. So posting those pictures and doing that stuff, that work all day long is like, it totally makes sense. Just do that in-house, never pay outside for somebody. The same thing comes along with feeding this AI beast, because you really shouldn't pay somebody to be on Quora answering questions, or on Reddit answering questions. Like that's got to be internal, and that's why it's so daunting, because how do you keep up when you've got 9,000 other things to worry about, particularly, staffing and competition? And it's tough. People that have been around a lot longer and have already organically, naturally built up that brand, they're the ones that are doing the best in the AI placements.
Yeah, there's definitely no lack of content in a business like this, right? You have those perfect opportunities all day long of capturing those and putting them out there into the interwebs. Again, on the AI thread, but maybe even more so about finding local services in your area. Are people still using Google to do that? Or are they leaning more into AI? Or how does that, where's the trend headed there?
Well, tremendously, without question, they're still using Google. Like, it's not even close. And just to go back to that example, the Morristown, that was one lead out of hundreds, and the hundreds all came from Google. And that's very consistent with what we see. Now, in the broader economy, yes, things are changing a little bit, and there are people, and it's primarily early adopters. The people that want to run to the new tech, they're always going to run to the new tech, and a lot of them, they'll say, "Oh, I don't use Google anymore at all," but they still do. They don't think about it. Pretty much when they're on their phone and they're in Safari, they're typically going to Google. But there is no question that some of the information producers, basically like Forbes and some of the publishers that put out content on a regular basis, they're dying. When you look at their graphs of how much traffic they have, they're dramatically losing traffic, because ChatGPT and others are just stealing frankly, they're just taking their content, their intellectual property. So people can just go directly to one source to get that. But when they're looking for local providers of services, they're absolutely using Google. And in fact, I should probably show you a graph of this. We keep track of Google Trends for dog boarding over 5 years. And, obviously it tanked at COVID. And then it shot way up after COVID. 2021 searches for dog boarding, and as well as dog grooming and dog daycare and dog training, they all spiked to their highest levels ever. And so that sets the new baseline of 100. And since then, it's been coming down each year. 2025, it's actually gone up. So Google search volume has gone up And that's shocking to a lot of people. When people come in that are not our clients, but they're a prospective client and they're referred to us, they all have the same story. I'm down 20%. I've never advertised. I've been in business for 18 years. I'm down 20%. I don't know what to do. Well, the answer is you do have to start advertising, not because of declining volume and declining demand, but because of competition. Competition has exploded, and particularly the franchises, they're selling franchises like crazy. And so you talk to a lot of people that have never been in the industry and they think, oh, this will be great. I love dogs. And they don't have any idea what a difficult, I mean, you're multi-generational at your location, and it's severe. It's significantly hard work.
It's changed so drastically over the years, where it used to be 1 and 2 location mom and pop shops dominated the market. And now we're seeing a big trend shift towards, lots of private equity platforms are entering the space. And to your point, franchises are growing rapidly, and they're all very sophisticated operators, and they have a very sophisticated marketing plan in place. And to your point, absolutely, like, they're doing it and you're getting pushed down because everybody else is getting pushed up.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. And if you don't jump on that bandwagon right away and start competing where they're competing, which is in Google, then you're going to get left behind. And I tell people all the time, there will be attrition. There's no question that we're a country that loves our dogs, and that's only increasing every year. We spend more and more money on our dogs all the time, and they're truly parts of our family. And the upward trend, there's no question, the upward trend is that's going to continue. But the slope of that upward trend is not steep. It's a gradual increase, but the slope of the competition is a spike. I show all the time. I show this slide of client in Atlanta, 2023, four competitors competing against them in Google Ads. The next year, 9 competitors. So if you keep your budget the same, and now you're competing against 9 other facilities, you can't do that. So it's why, I'll give a plug here for Goose. I just was on a call this morning. I won't say which competitor of Goose they're using, but I was telling a client this morning they really need to make a change, because what you guys do, we can actually see, and you're the only ones that we can see this data. We can actually see what's working, and we get a return on that ad spend. And that's so critical at this point when you have so much competition, and it's just increasingly expensive to acquire those new customers. You better make sure you're converting those customers. We have so many people that even the best run facilities don't do a good job of answering their phones. And it's totally understandable. It's not anything systemic or that they're doing wrong. You can't ever possibly have enough people answering phones so that no one ever goes to voicemail. Like, that's just not a possibility. You could have 27 reservation specialists or receptionists, and still somebody's gonna one day they're all gonna be on the phone, right? At this point, when so much money is being put into these, I'm telling you, we see it in the data, 30 to 40% of the calls are missed first time around and go to voicemail or were not answered at all. And that's a huge problem today.
Absolutely. And what you just kind of touched on was that marketing attribution product that we've rolled out, where we can connect your Google or Meta campaigns that you're running digitally online directly into the Goose platform, track that user journey as they kind of click through the booking engine, and then attribute whether or not they've booked a reservation and how much it was worth, ultimately giving you a true return on ad spend. And I think that product, I'm glad that you've embraced it. I think it's also, by some marketers, has mixed reviews because it really takes it out of the black box.
That's right. It either works or it doesn't.
It's a really powerful marketing tool, to your point, and you can really tell which campaigns are working, which aren't. Google is kind of your bread and butter. Where do you stand on like Meta, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the social platforms out there?
Yeah, so Google, we didn't set out to have Google be our bread and butter. We just followed the results. And over those years, we've now become a Google Premier partner, which means we're in the top 3% of ad agencies around the country. I take a lot of pride in that. I think it's an awesome thing within our little industry of dog daycare, dog boarding, that we have a specialist within that industry that has the keys to the top level with Google. I think that's That's pretty awesome. I'm proud of that as a business owner. But the reason that has happened is simply because it's what works. As much as and look, I have a lot of younger people that work here that love social media. I personally am not a fan. I think it's the downfall of Western civilization if you want to have a beer and get into it. But it works without question. It works in certain industries. What we've seen in the data is it's not very helpful in our industry. It is very helpful for engagement. So and again, going back to, we think all this stuff should mostly be done in house. Sure, you have that one great kennel person or the assistant manager or the manager, somebody who wants to be out there with their iPhone shooting TikTok videos, and now you can edit that stuff so well in free tools and low cost tools. It's great to do, and it's great for engagement and having people share it. What we see, though, is it doesn't necessarily result in new business. It helps repeat business. It helps the branding. And this, again, we're back to doing that stuff now is even more important because of the AI. But I will tell you that probably 5% of our pet clients we actually do Meta ads for, because it's just the number of leads that come from Google dwarf what comes from the others.
Let's say I'm a pet care facility and I come to you and I'm just kind of curious about the process and what that looks like. I've never done marketing before. Where do we even start? Like, what's your process into kind of walking me down that path? And then also, what can I expect? I know this is probably a loaded question because it depends geographically of where you're located, what your market's like, but I know typically a little bit of marketing doesn't do anything. So you have to kind of commit something into an ad spend. What's a typical budget look like?
Sure. Yeah, and I'll just touch on that one part, and then I'll go back and answer them in order. But we tell people all the time that we're going to tell you if your budget is so low that we don't think it's going to do anything for you, we're going to say, please just keep your money. Please don't put it into this, because you're just going to walk away having spent money without having a return on your investment. The process, people love the fact that, so we're not selling packages. We generally have 2 meetings with prospective clients. The first one is a bit of a deep dive into, tell us all about your facility. Tell us about your capacity. How many dogs can you take for boarding? How many for daycare, etc.? How many groomers do you have? How many trainers do you have? What's a typical weekend look like in the off season? What's a typical daycare weekday look like? How full are you for Thanksgiving? How full are you for Christmas? And so we'll hear what those needs and opportunities are. Where do they have opportunity to grow and bring in more people? And then we'll go away for about a week, 10 days, and we'll do our analysis, and we'll look at the area where they're located. And there's multiple tools through Google that we use to see what kind of a budget they will need. We'll also, during that time, we'll do a couple other audits. We'll look to see what their search engine optimization looks like. And there's some situations where we'll tell them right off the bat, we really need to address some SEO stuff right now. But our whole point, what I told you earlier about let's start with ads and then let's add SEO and other stuff as we go, is purely from a budget standpoint. It's purely just, let's keep the cost down as low as we can at the beginning so that you can get some success, you can feel success, and then you can go, you can breathe. Because one of the most important things, and I tell my team this all the time, and I tell this point blank to prospective clients. Everybody has been, quote unquote, burned by marketing. Everybody has written a check and gotten nothing out of it. And I tell clients, what's going to happen is going to be amazing, is the moment you fully trust us, everything is going to go incredibly well. And if you're skeptical, if you're not feeling comfortable, things don't go well. They just don't. We want everybody to see that, look, we can start slow. We can get you results, make you feel comfortable, let you see that we have zero conflicts of interest. People pay Google directly, people pay call tracking metrics directly. Nothing flows through us. You pay us for our time and our expertise. That's it. So if we tell you you have to raise your budget for Google Ads, you know that it's real advice that you're getting. But what I can tell you with this big aggregate number of clients, I can kind of tell you sort of some averages. I would say most of our clients pay us somewhere between $1,500 and $2,500 a month. Most of our clients pay Google somewhere between $2,000 and $4,000 a month. We have plenty of clients that pay Google $15,000 a month. It depends on the size of their facility. But here's the best part about all of this is we've set it up so that it really is about ROI. It's not about, it shouldn't be about how much you're actually spending. It should be about what you're actually getting back. So if you're investing $1, are you getting $1.60 back or $1.20 or $4.10? And if, as long as you are, that's why some of these people that have these huge budgets, I'll talk to people and they'll be like, they pay how much to Google? And it's like, well, it's irrelevant. How much they pay to Google is actually meaningless as long as you can wrap your head around that. But it's actually meaningless if the number coming back in exceeds that.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's the main metric that matters the most, return on ad spend, ROAS. Does it ever make sense? Because I talk to hundreds, if not thousands of facilities throughout the country. They're mostly all pretty busy around the expected holidays, peak period throughout the year. Do you have clients who are seasonally investing in Google ads and things like that? Is that a strategy that also works, trying to boost load times?
Such a great question. I love it. What's really interesting, and this is, I'm really just kind of thinking about this now, is everybody who comes in as a new client kind of wants to do that. Because we all know that, January and February are horrendous. In actuality, I'd say 95% of our clients don't make massive changes seasonally. They all make some little changes. For example, we talk with our clients all the time. And so, we're getting into now, our favorite season, obviously, Thanksgiving and Christmas. And if we hear from them a month and a half out that they're full and they're on a wait list, we may turn down their budget a bit. We'll never turn it off. We may turn down their budget a bit, particularly if we want to try to focus on some other things. Like, for example, we might turn down boarding because they just got a new groomer and let's try to get that groomer busy ASAP. So let's move that money over there. So we do a ton of that. But when it comes to, and this comes all back to that competition point I made earlier, when it comes to January and February, one of the things we love, you mentioned, the sophisticated nature of some of the consolidators and some of the franchises. We'll see in the data that they're backing off in January and February. That's a win, baby. Because if they're backing off, then for the same spend that we normally would be spending, we're going to capture that demand because there's always some demand. And if we're going to completely step out when demand goes down, think about the lifetime value of a new client. So that one client, it's at least 5,000. We typically use 8,000, but we also built a calculator that all of our clients can use that. Okay, if we get a new client, how many boarding, how many pet nights a year do you think we're going to get out of it? How many times might they come in for daycare? Will they do training? Let's say they have to do grooming. And you start looking at the number, the lifetime value is huge. We talk about economics a lot with our clients. And I think generally when we talk that stuff through, most of them don't want to really reduce their budgets too much. If they want to, we're totally cool with it. But it's up to them. But we're just going to give them our advice on what we think they should do.
Got it. Do you ever get into, sales and marketing oftentimes kind of blend together and people kind of use them, 1-2 punch. Do you ever get into some recommendations? You said it a couple months out, sometimes they're full for Thanksgiving. Well, I oftentimes will look at that situation. It's like, that's not good, guys. You sold out too soon. You have all this opportunity, 2 months leading up to the holiday, think about all the people you have to tell no to. And that's where I try to pump up, like, the revenue management aspect. You most likely have underpriced your services. You're leaving a lot on the table. Do you ever get into conversations like that? Does that come up? Does that play into the equation?
It comes up all the time, but it's often more peripheral for us because what we find is most of our clients just don't have that level of understanding about their finances. Most of them have gotten into this not because they're a bean counter, right? Most of them are just drinking from a fire hose, trying to get through the day. And it's an amazing thing when you see it happen though, when they do get to that point where they're now stepping out of the day to day and they've got a really competent general manager and they can truly, I mean, it's such a cliche, but it's the right one. They can truly work on the business instead of working in the business. When they get to that point, it's amazing because we can have such great conversations with them about exactly this kind of a thing. And that's when we get into, we'll do CRMs for people. And, we use High Level a lot for that. And it's amazing how much when you stop and think about it as a business owner, how much lost opportunity there is when you didn't sign somebody up, let's say for training. They might still need training 8 months later, and they just didn't do it because it's $4,000 or $7,000, and if you're that's where the marketing and the selling, I think, really intersect, is setting up automated workflows to reach those people and stay in touch with them. And so many clients. And so, you had mentioned the funnel at the very beginning of the talk. Google Ads and SEO is really kind of at the very bottom of the marketing funnel. Those are people that are ready to buy. But as you go up the funnel, there are people that are contemplating, they're considering, maybe they haven't put a dog into daycare yet, but they're thinking, man, that might be a good fit. My dog really needs some more socialization. I really think maybe I should think about this, but I don't know. My husband thinks it's too expensive. And so you start feeding them with case studies and an offer here and there and a special day of play that, once a quarter, there's a special event, and you get them out there and then they're hooked. So there's so many things like that. That's kind of next level. And we do a lot of that with clients, but so many of our clients, it's just like, oh my God, just get me through the day, get me enough leads in here. I can't even wrap my head around optimal pricing, like what you all work on.
Yeah. So tell me this, what do you drive those online users toward? Obviously, they're going to the website, but then what happens on the website? Like, what action are you wanting them to partake in?
It's a good question. It's different with different clients. So some people love forms. Some people only want phone calls. And then some people want them to go through the kennel software. There's one of the kennel softwares out there. We hate to see them go to their platform because it's kind of like a black hole and we can't get proper data out of it. So when we have clients using that software, we will try to drive them more toward forms and phone calls so that we can track it better and give that owner good advice. If they have Goose, or in some cases a couple of the other ones with some tweaking, we just want them going there. Definitely with Goose, the action we want to happen, if it's a Goose client, which we have several now, go to Goose and then it's smooth and then we can track everything. So it's really, for some clients, it's for different reasons. We'll send them to the homepage of the website. For most clients, we'll send them to either a custom landing page or the services page. So like if it's a dog boarding campaign, they'll go to the dog boarding page on XYZ petresorts.com. It's a little different for each one. It's amazing with as many clients as we have in this industry, there aren't a lot that are identical. The overall concepts are all the same, but the mechanics often differ.
But ultimately, you're trying to just capture that lead that you can nurture over time.
Capture and convert.
Yeah.
Capture and convert. And that's why we get apoplectic about when calls are not answered. And so you just, you taught me, or your partner Drew, one of you told me that 50% of your reservations are happening after hours. That's incredible. Think about that. I mean, and then so you know, if you're not, if obviously we can't answer the phone at 2 a.m, but we can use either a really good system like Goose, or if we're not going that way, we can use an answering service, or a really good AI, not just an AI that takes messages.
Yeah, I think that's where I feel, and I have strong convictions around this, is the instantly confirmed online booking engine totally complements what you do so well, because we live in this instant gratification world. People want everything right now. And I don't want to send a request. I don't want to submit information and wait to hear back. I want to buy now. And if you can push people into that process and give them that expected experience that they see on every other e-commerce platform today, it's so powerful in delivering and capturing those reservations that do roll in at 2 a.m. because people are, for whatever reason, on different schedules than your normal business operating hours. And it's super powerful in that regard. And maybe this is a conversation I need to have with you on the side, Dwayne, but how much do you get into positioning and marketing and how things are laid out? Not necessarily on the website, but I even see it at Goose. When people sign up for Goose and they want to build out their booking engine a certain way, and they're just butchering it from naming to descriptions to positioning. And I gotta bite my tongue a little bit, but I try to guide them. I would love to pull in an expert marketing person like you and say, look, Dwayne, help them position and market their wares in the online booking engine that sets them up for the most success, right? I mean, e-commerce is not new. We're not reinventing the wheel. There's a tried and true way to approach that. So many people could use a little bit of guidance there. And I don't know if that would be something you're able to help out with, but man, I would love the assist there.
Probably. It's so funny because this has been one of the top topics of discussion within impact marketing for the last 2-3 months in earnest. We've talked about this a lot over the years, but A, I'm the business owner. B, I'm obviously in my 50s. I've got gray hair. I bring naturally some authority to the discussion, right? So we've been talking a lot internally about how when I get on a call with a client, I just tell them, I'll just be like, look, I understand why you want to do it that way, but you can't do it that way. Here's why. Here's what we see other people doing successfully. And I've been working really hard with my team to have them adopt that. And, they're much younger. They're sweet people pleaser type people. Everybody loves them. But sometimes you got to say, look, man, this is not what you should be doing. And it's in the client's interest to tell them that. And I really feel like it's malpractice if we don't tell them when they're doing something wrong. And I shouldn't even say wrong, right? But when they're doing something that's not going to work to their benefit. And so I'll give you an anecdote. I won't go too specific on this though. We have several clients that, look, we're in a very cutesy industry, right? The dog puns abound. They're everywhere, right? And we have to tell people all the time, no, sure, if internally you want to call it a dog sleepover, friend stay, or, instead of training, you want to call it dog school, like call it that to your heart's content internally, but we're not calling it that on the website because no one is searching for dog school or for dog sleepover. They're searching for dog boarding, dog training, dog grooming, dog daycare. We're going to populate the website with those simple terms. We're not going to turn it into a dissertation or this big project that's a fun branding thing. We've got to make it practical because we just need the business to come in the door.
Exactly. Right. I mean, be fun, be cute, but also
you can totally do it. You can do both.
Yeah, absolutely. I could chew your ear all day on this. I know we're running short on time, but to maybe wrap this up, what are some bigger industry trends or even opportunities that you're seeing that people should kind of lean into?
Sure. I don't know if I would say lean into this, but certainly respond to it. The issue of competition, I want to just, and I'll add more here, but I want to really pound home that the world has changed. You can't wish it away. The fact that you've been in business for 15 years and never had to advertise before, I get it that you made a better profit margin then because you didn't have that expense. But please understand that you're going to have no profit margin because you're going to be out of business if you don't compete against some of these very strong competitors. So I want people to really think about just changing a mindset on that. And honestly, it's not self-serving at all. We have plenty of business. There's no doubt there will be attrition. And if you have 10 competitors in an area, 8 of them will be around in 5 years and a couple of them won't. And you don't want to be that one. To go a little granular on some of the trends, we're seeing within Google Ads, for example, there are some new products. One of them is local service ads that they're not a replacement by any means for traditional Google Ads, but they're a nice little add-on. And they're a way to be sure that you're at the top of the search results pages. And those are a different animal. They're pay per lead versus pay per click. We haven't been, we were not early adopters with them for several reasons, but now we're starting to see some better results from them. Again, they're just an adjunct. They're not a replacement.
Tell me again, like, what are local services ads? Are they appearing on like Google Maps? Is that what you're talking about?
No. So, and I'll get you a screenshot of this that maybe you can add in too. But so they were actually developed for contractors. So literally local services like a plumber, electrician, a handyman, whatever.
Yeah, but we fit into that category too, don't we?
Yeah, right. So I'm sure you've seen these, and they'll say Google screened.
Okay.
They used to also have another category that said Google guaranteed, and then Google realized that was a terrible idea, and they dropped that. But so it's a higher level of verification. They do a background check. There's a company that does a background check on you. So you truly are Google screened. And it's less about your website. It's more about your Google business profile. Basically, if you're a plumber and someone types, plumber near me, and you see that come up, these local service ads, LSAs we call them, they come up above the traditional Google ads, and then of course above the map pack, etc. And rather than pay per click, you pay when they actually become a lead. There's some drawbacks. There's several drawbacks, like with everything, but they're an interesting thing that people may want to keep an eye on. If they've got 9 competitors in Google Ads and there's only 2 competitors in local service ads, well, you probably ought to add $150, $200 to a campaign just to add local service ads. And we see a lot of people aren't using them. So that's an opportunity in our industry that people can take on. A trend, with Google, Google constantly introduces things that in the long run will be in the best interest of advertisers, but in the short run are very much not. And that happened with an ad type called Performance Max, PMax. It's AI driven. And so in the early days, a few years ago, all the Google reps were pushing hard for all the advertisers to pour their money into PMax, Performance Max. Why? Because they needed to train their AI. It wasn't actually good at the time for the advertisers. Now the AI has been trained well enough. Now we're seeing really good results with Performance Max. So most of our campaigns these days have a component of traditional search ads plus Performance Max ads. And performance, just to differentiate them real quick, traditional search ads, I'm in front of my computer, I type dog boarding near me or dog boarding Evansville, Indiana. Performance Max, instead of targeting keywords like that, the advertiser is targeting audiences. So I want everybody within this geographic area who has a dog, owns a home, buys online dog food, and has gone to the vet in the last year. I want to serve display ads to them while they're out all over the internet on AccuWeather or ESPN or whatever. And we see tremendous results from that. So most of our clients these days have a combination of both a search component and a PMax component. I tell you about that PMax thing because now we're seeing the same thing happen again. Now there's AI Max. And so the ad reps are pushing AI Max. It's the same deal. It's not ready for prime time, but they've got to train their AI. And I have a colleague who owns a digital marketing agency in Florida, in Jacksonville. She just told me last week she has a client. The Google ad rep jumped over her and went directly to the client, an HVAC contractor, convinced them to spend $75,000 a month on AI Max and he might go out of business. And he was an established business. So you got to be really careful sometimes with what the advice is from reps that don't really know your business. So AI Max, I am positive 2-3 years down the road, AI Max will probably be a great thing. But right now, not wouldn't be our recommendation.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, you definitely have to find somebody that has your best interest in mind. So, Dwayne, where can we get a hold of you if somebody was watching this and wants to kind of get in contact with you? Do they contact you directly? Send a inquiry into your website? What's next?
Yep, any of the above. I prefer direct. So my email is dcarey. So D as in Dwayne, Carey, Carey at impactmarketing.net. Not .net. You know, we've got 16 people. Most of them know more about all this than I do. Thank God. I'm just a pretty face. So, you know, anytime anybody, I tell people this very sincerely all the time. I love this industry. As an employer, I'm so blessed to have a niche in pet care because my employees are happy. They they get to work with really cool people all the time who really appreciate what we do. And that hasn't been the case throughout the whole 20 years of Impact. We've had some tough clients but in pet, they're just salt of the earth, great people. So I tell people all the time, I'll answer any question. You don't have to be a potential client. I'll share whatever I can share. And so don't ever hesitate to contact me. I love everybody in this industry.
It's very much an enjoyable industry to be in, and it's
It
very,
really is.
nice people for the most part. And I think we definitely have that going for us. And until next time, Dwayne, I really appreciate your time.
Likewise, Chris. Thanks so much for the opportunity to chat.
Absolutely. Take care.